Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this afternoon session, brought to you by Epic. My name is Lars Hyland, Head of Consulting Services at Epic, and my colleague here, Imogen Casebourne, is Head of Learning. And what we're going to do is, for the next half an hour, is talk to you about what can we learn from the future. Now, what do we mean by that? Well, Epic as an organisation has been involved in learning technologies since the late 80s, so 1984, 86, and we've been leveraging the power of learning technology to improve both efficiency and effectiveness of learning over that period. And what we're going to do is just give you an insight into some of the techniques and approaches that we as an organisation have led the field with, if you like, in terms of developing de facto type standards that the e-learning industry now sort of follows, but also to draw from innovations that we've been using and discuss how relevant they are today, because you'd be amazed at how relevant a lot of these approaches are now, given the more interconnected and powerful sort of set of technologies that we now have. Oops. Just would like to show you a bit of video here. A lot of what we do involves a range of media, and video, as we know, has been around for a long time. But now, with our ability to offer it not just in standalone form, but in a pure streamed digital interconnected form, we've got the ability to deliver the emotional impact and effectiveness of that approach as part of a range of media approaches, which include drama, interviewing, animations of various ilks and sorts. These include things like kinetic typography, which is a very powerful effect to get across, and also a cost-effective approach to getting your messages across as part of communications, as well as focusing on your sort of learning and training views. So, sort of move on. Another example here of how this can work is a piece of work we've had with QVC, which is on information security. And this piece here will illustrate to you that we can use animation in novel ways that really are good at getting clear messages across in a short periods of time. So this idea of infographics is very popular, increasingly popular, and it's something that we've sort of brought to the fore in many of our blended programs now. So it's very key to get across your key messages to improve engagement and to improve the take-up of wider sort of learning activities that you have. Here's another example. This is for Wiley. This is on body language, and it's using video to illustrate, I think, quite a neat effect, which is body language itself, and looking at how people, in this case, someone is nervously waiting to go into an interview. It's very effective at, I think, getting across something you can't do in a static way.
To hold back a thought or emotion. Perhaps Mark's trying to hide his nerves. Playing with objects such as a pen or jewelry are deflecting signals which indicate nervousness. When you're feeling tense or agitated, you may find that your hand goes to your head or your fingers run along your scalp, like Mark's doing now. This gesture is comforting, reminiscent of the hair ruffles and strokes you receive.
So this type of tool is used both in in mobile apps, so you can carry some of these things around you to use at the point in time of need when you have. So some of the practical tips, I think, when it comes to using video and media of this sort is clearly keep it short. Think very much around practical demonstrations and scenarios that you can capture, and of clear visual messages. Like, as you can see, when it comes to the typography or using animation, making sure that's very crisp and clear and to the point, and not over-cluttering the message in any particular way. Now, a lot of this is leading now to immersive training solutions, and increasingly now with our smartphones and with the more interactive, powerful sort of technology that we have available to us, we can bring people into virtual environments, we can put people into supported real environments, and this is something that at Epic we were pioneering some time ago. Back in '97 we actually built a virtual Paris and a virtual London, which allowed you to move around those city centres and explore famous tourist areas, and to be able to open up additional information into those areas. And we pioneered many of the sort of techniques of navigation and approach that now we take for granted. So indeed, it's very simple now, isn't it? It's just to fire up Google, look at Street View, and you're sort of in there in the place, and also enables you to sort of bring up additional information. So some of these things which were pioneered in '97, early days then, but now we take for granted. It just goes to show the rapid change in which a lot of these innovations can move. But it also gets you thinking about how you can use tools such as Epic, and also Google tools to bring place into your space, and actually use flexible ways to bring real environments to life, both at the point in time of need. And one other example, more recent example, is a piece we produced for Opal, who are a charity. And this is an interesting use of explorable environments, which is aimed at younger people to get interested in their natural environment. So clearly being out there, understanding what you can discover. These environments here that we created gave children the ability to explore and see what they could do by actually getting out into the real world as well. So creating these immersive spaces is a powerful way to move away from more flat sort of uses of e-learning. So it's something that now very flexible and sort of cost-effective technique to explore. Here's a more sort of serious example. This is a piece that we produced for DWP, which is actually all about claiming benefits, which is hot political topic at the present time, as we could say. But back then it was also a hot political topic in the sort of early 90s, around the sort of late 90s. And we produced a very effective piece of learning, which uses a number of techniques, which is to bring you right into an immersive, an interview situation, and you have to make judgments as to whether this person is telling you the truth. You have to ask the right questions, and you have to be able to understand the answers that you're getting. Now, this is a very subtle situation to be in, and also actually quite a potentially abusive situation as well, in terms of the language that's actually embedded in this tool and this solution. It's very real. It's very, it's as real as it possibly can be, to ensure that when you finish this learning, that you can transfer into a real environment and actually put these techniques into practice, so that you can spot where people are potentially saying that they've lost their benefits book, and in fact actually they haven't. They've been taking benefits from other areas. So very powerful technique, which also uses gamification. So it encourages you to learn from failure, but to go back and repeat and actually improve. So you start to demonstrate the real benefits of that situation. So some practical tips. Simulations are very powerful. They're very, I think, very effective tools to use, and they're a worthwhile investment, especially when it comes considering complex situations. But you do need to allow plenty of time to develop and refine those scenarios. But as I say, a very timely and I think very effective way to produce these things. Just now hand over to Imogen to take you through.
I'm going to talk a little bit about storytelling. And storytelling is obviously nothing new. It's been around for millennia. As you can see here, people have been drawing stories on the walls of caves. So it's something we've always been doing, and we've always been using stories to learn. But what's changed is that now with mass communication devices like these ones, we can share stories much more widely. We can share stories with a wider audience. And what's so important about stories is research shows that they're actually stored in a different part of the brain. Stories are stored in the taxon system, which is the system that is used to store visual memories. So it's usually much easier to retrieve a memory of a story at the right point than it is if you're trying to retrieve facts and figures which are stored somewhere else. So they're a really powerful method for learning, which is a great reason to use them. And another reason for using stories in your e-learning is that people really listen to their colleagues or to people who are experts in the field. And it can be a really good way of getting across a subtle point that perhaps you might do in a simulation like the one that we just saw, which actually allows people to practice in an immersive environment. But if you don't necessarily have the budget to create a whole series of subtle immersive environments, having someone tell a story about a complex series of decisions they had to take in the workplace can really help get that message across. This is something we did for the BBC as part of a course about making factual dramas, so dramas that are fictitious but based on real events. And I'll just play you a little bit of this now.
Back, and Tim Collins gave this very famous Henry V style speech to his troops before they went into battle. And we spoke to soldiers who were there, we spoke to a reporter who was there. It was never filmed, but notes have been taken about exactly what he'd said. We spoke to Tim Collins himself, we spoke to lots of people who were actually there at that moment. So we had a really accurate record of what Collins said. So we were very comfortable with that, comfortable with dramatising that. But the chronology from all of those individuals didn't stack up.
Okay, so what he's saying there is that with the best will in the world, what he goes on to explain, all the people he was speaking to were telling him something that wasn't true. They were telling him that they saw this speech as the bombs started to fall. And that couldn't have happened, he realised. But what he's saying is you could very easily, because it would have made such a great drama, he could very easily have believed what all these people were saying and gone with it. And he's warning people that you really need to probe before you go forward. But that's a technique that can be used in a whole bunch of situations where people need to make subtle decisions. And once that's recorded, you can share that on your learning management system. You can access it via mobile devices. So in terms of practical tips, remember stories are more memorable and they tend to be more convincing. Look for real life stories. Encourage staff to tell their own stories. These days it's relatively cheap to video people telling their stories, and it can be a very powerful and effective method of learning. And talking about mobile devices, obviously this has been a hot topic for some time now, and it's something that we think is incredibly effective in increasing the flexibility and the range of learning, allowing learners to learn at their own pace whenever and wherever they want. But mobile isn't that new either. Back in 1994, we were at Epic designing sales training, product training that could be taken on the shop floor using this nice-looking mobile device over there. And more recently, we were creating short courses, performance support resources, videos and games for delivery on a PDA, and then on a Nintendo DS. So the technology changes, but what people actually want to do with it hasn't changed that much. People still want to have flexible access to just-in-time reminders. As smartphones and tablets came in, we undertook some research with the NHS, looking at what devices people had and what they wanted to do with them for learning. And one of the things that became clear that it's vital, if you're offering mobile learning, that your device and operating system agnostic, because people are quite evenly split between Apple and Android devices. Can I see a show of hands who's got Apple devices? Okay, great, thank you. Android devices? Okay, so more Apple devices here, but we find a fairly even split and a lot of people on Blackberries. So you really do need to be, well, still, you know, that's what people are given at work, so they often are on Blackberries. So that's important, and as part of being device agnostic, you also need to be screen size agnostic. So this is the EPIC website. You can view it and use it on different size screens. That's responsive design. It adjusts itself for the size of the screen. If you've ever used a website that doesn't do that on a smartphone, you'll know how annoying that is. Well, in the same way that you can have responsive web design, you can also have responsive learning design. So this is a course that we created a few years ago, but just to show you what that can look like, here's an example of a course. It's actually there on 2 devices running simultaneously there, as you can see, on the iPad and the smartphone. And you can see that it's been created once in one authoring tool and actually output to multiple devices. It's working differently on the smartphone. So you can see there the questions. The feedback comes up in a slightly different location on the smaller device. So that's saves a lot of time and trouble if you can design once and output to multiple authoring tools. And in terms of what you should be outputting to your multiple authoring tools, an e-learning course that is flexible to access, that people can move from using at work on their PC to their mobile device on the train on the way home is obviously important. But you should also be thinking about just-in-time learning and resources, because people, when we surveyed them, people really want to be able to look things up. They want decision support. They want calculators. They want things that can really help them. Small video clips, but again, like the ones we saw earlier, but keep them short, little demos, things that they can access as they're going about their work, because their mobile device is always with them. And it could be as simple as this app created for the NHS, which used to be wallet cards. So this is performance support without the technology. It's something that people still want to do, but now they want to access it on their mobile device as well. So if performance support is something that you as a training organisation are new to, EPIC has a drive model to help you move to performance support. I won't take you through all of it right now, but you need to decide on your strategy, as in where performance support fits in with upfront training. You'll need to reach out to key stakeholders to support you if it's a new initiative. Identify the appropriate methods of supporting performance. Validate your solution, so pilot it, check it works, and engage your users. We have a white paper on this on our knowledge base, and if you drop by at our stand, you can pick it up on a memory stick. That's stand 113. So that's how to drive performance. So in terms of moving to mobile, consider context, keep it short, use a responsive design tool such as Gomo to all for once and output to multiple devices, and think about designing for performance support. So I'm going to hand you back to Lars.
Thank you, Imogen. What's key, I think, is going forward is that learning isn't one size fits all. We need to think about making it personal and more contextual to the individual's needs. One way of doing this is to introduce the concept of diagnostics, so that when you design a piece of e-learning, that very early on you give people an opportunity to demonstrate what they already know and what they already can reflect back to you and demonstrate with the tools. So we've used this technique quite in many ways on relatively small projects, but also quite sizable ones. Like, for example, with Lloyds Banking Group, we took their entire compliance suite and re-engineered it so that it was a more unified design experience and learning experience for people, but also was shortened, which was favourable to including too much information in these pieces. But more importantly, each component had a diagnostic at the beginning which you could demonstrate your existing understanding and knowledge of compliance, which has led to dramatic shortening of the amount of time people have spent proving that they are compliant, which when you couple that around 100,000 of staff per annum completing quite sizable hours worth of compliance material, that leads to a huge opportunity cost saving. So it's worth looking in your organisation for opportunities there to improve the learning experience, to actually shorten the learning experience by demonstrating to people what they already know and targeting the learning where it's really needed. So one example of that is our model of learn and apply, which takes that sort of diagnostic thinking on the stage and starts putting you into the learning or the environment and the experience first, rather than lecturing you about something and then giving you a chance to demonstrate it afterwards, is to put you into a situation and ask you to make decisions, ask you to demonstrate what you know and how you would respond, and then providing contextual feedback as a result. So this sort of design you can implement into any type of e-learning course, as long as you think about it at the early design stages. So it's a very powerful way to sort of improve the effectiveness of your learning designs. Now, one way of also thinking a bit broader is thinking about the context and the wider holistic position of the learning solutions that you're designing. So don't just think about the e-learning pieces or the components. Think about where it sits on the journey that an individual has in terms of their existing skills or where they are in the organisation. So in this particular model that we have aspect, it's all about bringing new people into new roles. So this is also about, it's not just about people outside of the organisation coming in, although that's the vast majority of that, and in fact this model is about doing that in terms of attracting the right people, ensuring that you're selecting the right people, and that you prepare people to learn appropriately. And you can use learning technology to support each of these stages if you think about them all together. So it's not just about the engage stage, or that sort of arrive on the first day and induct someone for a short period of time and expect people to know everything. That tends to be not particularly effective way of introducing people to the organisation if you can prepare them better beforehand. It allows you to free up that time to focus on engaging people in the people around them, the mission, the values of the organisation, and to connect with people, both the team, the managers, experts around them, and the tools that they need to use. And then finally being able to tune that, so using performance support tools to sort of remind, develop and challenge, so you retain people for longer. So in bringing new people on board, you can reduce that time to competency quite dramatically by thinking holistically. So this is what this aspect model is about, and you can learn more about that if you'd like to talk to us afterwards or understand. Now, one aspect of this also is in using new standards, new tools such as Tin Can, which is a development on from some standards that you may know of, as SCORM, for example, that allow you to track people's activities when they complete e-learning via learning management systems. Tin Can enables you to do more, i.e. capture different types of learning activities and to store those in a learning record store environment, essentially a database, which you can then interrogate in a more interesting way. So you can start to use this to understand what people are doing at various points and times in their jobs. Are they applying what you have trained them on? Are you seeing that people are taking the opportunity to develop themselves and to utilize what you're learning? Are they actually doing these blended activities that you may have designed and offered to people? This is what this type of tool set can do, and EPIC has been pioneering that in developing what are known as learning record stores, or LRSs, yet another acronym, but it's a powerful way to start collecting more useful information about your learners and actually responding to their needs better. Now this continues into augmented reality. We started that thinking at the start of this presentation, but increasingly we can use our devices to enhance the environment that we're looking at around us and learn in context. So some of these tools you can see around you. Some of you may have these up type bracelets for measuring your physical activity and various health signs. This app down in the corner here, actually you can point at your skin and it will actually reveal whether you've got potential skin cancer or melanomas or things that you need to worry about. Now these are active tools that enable you that you can use at the point in time of need and then make decisions and respond accordingly. So this is blurring the idea of just-in-case type training and learning, and more moving it into tools that will help you perform better, but learn it more effectively and more rapidly and in a more accelerated ways. So this is why technology is now firmly at the heart of all the things that we need to do today. One example here, which we're increasingly seeing, is linking the learning into tools such as, for example, a CRM system or sort of a customer relationship management system, where you can have people going on visiting clients or visiting others, and your phone will be able to give you proactively support when you need it. So, for example, you're going to a meeting, it can give you immediate access to that checklist that you received at the end of some running effective meetings training. You can get top tips about negotiation if it happens to be a sales meeting, and access to flights and next appointments, which if any of you have used Google Now, will show you that you can use that in more independent ways, but you can start to use those tools again to support learning and training environments. So practical tips, absolutely key that design needs to be flexible. It needs to be able to operate in a variety of contexts. You need to ensure that the programs respond, that they adapt to the learner situation, so it's personalised to their particular needs. Otherwise, you can lose attention, you can lose engagement, and you lose the actual full return on investment of the solutions that you're designing. So that concludes our session. If you want to learn more, do come and visit EPIC on stand 113. That's just back through that hallway over there. You can even have a play with Google Glass. We actually have that on the stand if you'd like to see what all the fuss is about. So you can explore and have a conversation about how you can utilise tools of that nature, and potentially get hold of some chocolate, which will give you the energy to survive the rest of the day, plus also enter a competition to win actually some of the a media solution for you, plus also access to consultancy from our team. So thank you for your attention, and happy to take any questions. So many thanks for your time.